Okay, so when I was 10, I was in a running club and I was having some really bad chest pains, so I ended up going to the doctor to kind of figuring out what it was because we thought it was a pulled muscle. But with a lot of testing that went on, they found out that it was a little bit more. So they ended up transferring me around, I want to say 2 in the morning, to the Children's Hospital. And I took some blood work, they did a whole bunch of different testing, and then within a few days they ended up telling me that I was diagnosed with cancer. So
this is the story on Kennedy Bougher, a Rangeview sophomore that has battled and won against cancer, and the problems her family has gone through along the way. She now lives a regular life and spreads the word about what she has gone through to inspire the people around her and to give others hope.
But I know they waiting for me when I come home. I don't wanna be a legend, no. I just wanna get to heaven, oh. I just wanna do me right now. Wanna do me right now.
It was June of 2007, and Kennedy was complaining of some chest pain. She had been in the Marathon Milers Club at Dalton Elementary. She was in the 4th grade, so she was running a mile every Thursday. Well, I took her to the doctor because she kept talking about persistent pain, and they told me it was a pulled muscle. So we went along our way. First day of summer, going into her 5th grade year, she was complaining that she couldn't breathe. So I'm like, Kennedy, are you okay? You know, or can you breathe? And she's like, I can't take a breath. So something that simple started on a Monday night. So I looked to my other children and I'm like, we're gonna go to the hospital. I don't wanna miss anything. Never in a million years did I think that my daughter would be diagnosed with a tumor in her rib cage at the age of 10.
So, I was 9 when Kennedy was diagnosed with cancer, and it was really hard, not only for me, but for the whole family, because me and Kennedy are super close, and we still are today. But when we were little, we were the only people that we could rely on, and it was hard because she was never home, and I never really had my best friend.
So I was 6 months pregnant when Kennedy got diagnosed, and when the doctors knew before Kennedy knew, and they were talking about going in there and letting her know that she had cancer. We were sitting in the hallway and I was shocked. There was no way, because she was only 10, she was just a child. There was no way that she could have cancer. And I couldn't believe it. And they were going to go tell her, and I chose not to go into the room because I couldn't handle it. I didn't want her to see me break down because I wasn't strong enough to...
After Kennedy was diagnosed with cancer, she had to go through chemotherapy, the treatment of disease using chemical agents or drugs that are selectively toxic to the causative agent of the disease, such as a virus, bacterium, or other microorganisms. The effects of chemotherapy are mouth sores, vomiting, or possibly nausea. Here's what Kennedy went through.
So when I first started my chemotherapy, you know, I got into it and, you know, I was really worried. I mean, what are the medicines going to do? How are they going to affect me? So when I started taking the medicine, the cancer itself didn't feel bad, but the side effects from the medicine was the worst. You know, I had mouth sores, throwing up, you know, I was underweight, you know, just completely sickly.
We knew she had osteosarcoma, which is a form of bone cancer. We started chemo the next day, which was Saturday. So what started on a Monday as just complaining about her side hurting, by that Saturday we were starting chemotherapy. She had 52 weeks of chemotherapy, so that's an entire year. She was so sick. She had everything from nosebleeds to severe bruising to acid burns inside her mouth to hair loss, which I shaved my head and her siblings did too, so she wasn't bald by herself. She had kidney stones, pneumonia, all the things that happen with chemotherapy. So
While Kennedy was in the hospital going through chemotherapy, she ran across a lot of people, but one stood out to her and she eventually became her best friend. And this girl's name was Taylor Rivera, and they are still in contact today and have a close bond with each other.
And there was one girl that I really met, and although we didn't have the same cancer, you know, we were going through the same things, and her name's Taylor Rivera, so she was my best friend throughout the whole thing. And you know, I can't believe that I met someone like her, you know, after being sick. We were diagnosed around the same time, so we were both young, the same age, we were both going through the same thing, so she was pretty much my sister through the hospital. You know, when she would have a doctor's appointment, I would check up on her, and vice versa. You know, we really cared about each other, and the bonds that you make throughout the hospital are amazing. You know, you're in such a negative area, but yet you're still wanting to find happiness and find the light and everything, because the whole reason why you're there is just filled with darkness. But you know, you kind of, although I wasn't around my real family and my brothers and sisters and all that, you know, I did create that other family, and I felt welcome there, and it wasn't as bad as I thought, you know, with all the...
During Kennedy's cancer treatment, Stacy, Kennedy's mom, decided to do a non-profit organization called A Miracle Party.
So the Miracle Party Foundation started the first year that Kennedy was diagnosed. We had just returned from our Make-A-Wish trip, which was in Paris, and we had a party to celebrate the end of chemotherapy. And what we decided to do, instead of having just a backyard barbecue, which is what was originally planned, was to invite all the children and the families that we had met along the way. So we ended up honoring 13 families the first year. The first Miracle Party, and we themed it. So the first year was a masquerade ball. The second year was superheroes. We've had a different theme every year. This upcoming year, September 21st, 2013, we're having a like under the sea, kind of with mermaids and things, and we're estimating over 150 cancer families to attend for free. So if you can imagine, our nonprofit has increased by, you know, 100% in the 6 years we started. Is pretty amazing.
Kennedy currently is attending Rangeview High School, and the people around her are supportive and helping her out with it. And here's her take on how it is going.
So when I got to Rangeview, not a lot of kids at all knew about my past or the surgery or me being sick at all. The only kids that really knew about it were the ones that stuck with me through elementary and middle school. So when I got to Rangeview, I really didn't want people to know, because I felt like they would treat me differently, because in the past I've had incidences where, you know, just people have a different outlook on me, and I didn't want that. I wanted to be treated just like every other kid, because I was every other kid. I was normal just like everyone else, just with a different type of past. So I kind of kept it on the down low. There was a time where some kids actually found out, and then more and more kids started asking me about it. And if you wanted to know anything, or if you asked me anything, I wouldn't mind telling you, but I would never be the one to just introduce myself as the former cancer child. So I kind of just left it. And then once I had my titanium surgery, kids really found out. You know, everyone knows now, and I definitely got a lot more questions. I don't feel like I was treated differently. I thought, you know, I think it was a very good support system, and I do like everyone at Rangeview, and I think that the way they treated me, and then the way that they were supportive, but, you know, kind of just left it alone, that sometimes it was great. And, you know, coming back to Rangeview after my surgery, I was scared because, you know, once again, I didn't want to be looked at differently, because I was just every other student, just going to class and doing the same things that everyone else was doing. So when I got back, you know, I had open arms from everyone, and I felt great. So, you know, if there was any other school that I would want to go to and feel, even though I had a little bit lack of confidence about my past, it would be Rangeview, because all the students in there are like amazing. They're all supportive and loving, and, you know, it was a great thing and great people to be around if I were to open up.
After the tumor being removed and removing 3.5 ribs and waiting till she was fully grown, they needed to implant a titanium rib cage in her.
So
So recently when Kennedy got her surgery in December, it was really stressful because we were all worried about how long the recovery is going to be. Since the last surgery when she got her ribs removed, it was really stressful and it was a really long recovery. And we were just hoping that this time it would be fast and, you know, it would be painless, because every time she would just be so sick, and seeing her going back into the hospital and in the bed and stuff, it was really hard because it just reminded me of what had happened before. But the titanium rib cage, it really does help her. It supports her not only like mentally but physically, and yeah.
Half ribs in her rib cage, which she had nothing to protect her heart and her lung. So we've been waiting until this December, so this year, December 28th of 2012, now it's 2013, she had a titanium rib cage put in. It's never been done. It was engineered in Boston by several engineers, took over 2.5 years to make. The engineers flew in for her surgery. She had several surgeons in the room. It was groundbreaking, and it was the first rib cage that we know that has ever been in place of a human body.
So weird, because when I saw the picture of Kennedy getting her titanium ribs and her skin was cut out, it was all bloody, and I thought she was going to be a robot and metal could go to her, and
so I remember in October she had told me that she's going to go ahead and do a surgery to help protect her heart and replace, I guess, some of the ribs that she lost while going through cancer treatment. And so I'd asked her a couple of times, I was like, oh, what's going on with that? What does that mean? And it wasn't until I did some research that I understood that she was going to be one of the only kids in the country to have that procedure. And I thought, that's amazing. Absolutely amazing. That not only has she been able to come out of having cancer as a small child, but to be able to go through a surgery in which nobody's ever done it before. And I thought that was pretty cool.
After Kennedy's cancer, after going through chemo, and after her family's struggles, they now live all together, and they can be as happy as it can be, knowing that Kennedy is safe and sound.
So when Kennedy was diagnosed, everything was really bad for not only for her but for the whole family. It was really gloomy and everyone was depressed about it, but since she was out of treatment, everything has been going amazing. You know, she's gotten back into school and we would always be so close, and we still are. It's really exciting for me as her little sister, because that means we can have like more of our future and more of our stories to tell. I'll be we will be by each other's side no matter what, and not only are we best friends, but we're sisters, and our bond could never be closer.
As a mother of 4, and I'll probably get emotional speaking about this, you never in a million years think that you're going to have a child that's been diagnosed with cancer. Cancer to me was somebody that was elderly. Cancer to me was somebody that drank all the time and smoked and caused lifestyle changes, or where they worked, or different reasons. Not a 10-year-old child that's going to have 3.5 ribs taken out and undergo an entire year of chemotherapy treatments. The thing that inspired me the most about Kennedy is that she never gave up. She never lost her smile and her sparkle. She was always full of shine. On the worst days, I look back now at the pictures and I thought she looked so fabulous because, you know, she was alive. and we look back and she was so near death. And I mean, you have to be brutally honest about it because it is what it is. We poisoned her for 52 weeks to get the cancer cells out of her body, and she never gave up. Since Kennedy was diagnosed in 2007, I lost both of my parents to cancer. Not the same type. Both of my parents died from my mother with brain and my father with liver. I don't think I could have went through their deaths with such faith or such ease without knowing Kennedy and having her as my daughter. I'm not saying this as just a mom. She's my friend. She is a part of this family, that our family dynamics would not be the same. We would not be able to be a unit. She completes us. And I just simply don't think that I could ever be as strong as she is, or I could only pray that I could be a tenth as strong as her and as faithful.
And she got through it, and now you never know. You know, you would never know that she had something like that happen to her. And it she handles that, something so big, and she's still going through school, and she's still trying to be a 16-year-old, you know, and she's living in a world where people are so, rightfully so. I was shallow, and I was, you know, I was immature, and I didn't care, and I was selfish, and as every 16-year-old should. That's part of being that age. But Kennedy has something inside her that people don't see, something that she has an appreciation for life, you know, and they see her dancing around and they see her being happy, but there's so much depth to that because she has survived. She is a survivor, and nobody will quite, unless they've lived through it, and even myself, I was just on the outside looking in, nobody will quite understand how deep-rooted that is. To know what it's like to actually fight for your life. Like, am I going to be here tomorrow? Am I going to live through chemotherapy? Am I going to wake up from the surgery? And those are really heavy questions, and that's stuff that Kennedy at 16 has lived through. But you would never know it because she just acts like a normal, you know, a normal 16-year-old, and she's constantly dancing and making a fool of herself and cracking me up as always. She is freaking hilarious, and she's the most phenomenal person I've ever met. And I can say that as her sister, but also just as a person who has watched her, you know, go through that. And I'm 24, and I pull my motivation from her. Being in the military, any obstacle I run into, I think of Kennedy, and I think of what she's been through, and then what could I possibly not overcome that she has, you know. I watch her, and that's where I pull my strength, and she is my best friend, and I just absolutely adore her, and I just hope.
So with me being on a mission, I guess in a way I used to be running from the past, trying not to think of what it used to be when I was younger and what all I went through. But now I guess I'm trying to look for the bigger picture and everything, you know. Maybe sharing my story is going to help someone, you know, I don't know, encourage someone to be a doctor or to look into research for cancer or anything like that. You know, I don't, maybe not like me sharing my personal story all the time, but I've come to actually enjoy telling people some things because it really does seem to change people's outlook, because you don't expect to hear that from a young child, at least, that they went through so much. And you know, in a way it paid off, I guess. Maybe not the right words, but it's just where I'm at today. I feel great, you know. It's in my past. I mean, without me being sick, I wouldn't be who I am today. So I guess I'm just thankful for my life now, and I can't even begin to describe how thankful I am for the people that were put in my life and who pretty much saved me from my illness. because without the doctors and research and care, then I wouldn't be here, so I'm thankful.